Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Hovhannes. I am the co-founder at Nation in Action Initiative, and at the same time, as Haikas already told, I'm one of the content leaders of the acceleration program. So I'll just give you a brief introduction about my background. So on later stages, it would be easier for you to understand where I can help you and what are my main skills that might be interesting for you. So I have a PhD in innovation management from Tallinn University of Technology, Estonia. So I have a quite good network in the Baltic states, both with entrepreneurs and with different VCs, accelerators, etc. So if you have any question regarding those aspects, I'm happy to help and support or give the linkage. Feel free to contact me via Slack or email. You have my email just on the first page of the presentation already. And at the same time, for like already 4 or 5 years, I was working in one of the biggest startup events in the region, in Seven Startup Summit. So I have a quite huge network also with the local entrepreneurs and different representatives who participated at the events. And currently, I am involved in a few other ventures more related to the tech platforms, etc. So feel free to ask or contact me at any case related to this topic. So what actually we're going to do today, we're going to talk about like just very beginning what the startup journey is about, what you're going to do, what you're going to feel, what you're going to face with. And based on that, you're going to have a task at the end of the seminar, on the end of the session, that you need to be submitted. There is the time and everything. And as Heike has already told, we're going to have a Slack separate channel dedicated for this session individually. And I will just have a look with me and my colleagues will have a look at your submissions and we will give you a brief feedback about each of the tasks that you have submitted. Just to be clear, today the task that you're gonna submit, it's not the final task because you will understand that whatever we are learning today, it's for the next 3-4 months. So during the next 3-4 months, you are going to actively work on the task that I am going to give you today, just as an introduction. So just let's start just from the very beginning. I think this is one of the best like quotes from Mike Tyson that he told that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So this is about the entrepreneurship and this is about the startup journey. Whenever you are starting your company, whenever you are having your idea and you want to move forward, you're gonna be sure that there is no exact plan that's gonna work for the next, I don't know, even 5 or 6 weeks. That's not gonna work even for maybe for 2 or 3 weeks. So that's why the most important thing that not to be completely attached to the plan or attached to the concept that you are working on. The most important thing that you need to be attached to the problem, the one that you want to solve and not to the product, not to the solution, not to the, I don't know, the business model that you are working with. So that's the, and what is the reason that we are thinking in this way about the entrepreneurship? So what is the typical entrepreneurial problem that everybody faces when they are starting the company or when they are starting a startup? It's always the same. You assume that you know the customer, you assume that you know have the right idea that is good enough, and you assume that you're going to have immediate success. But as soon as you are trying to solve the problem and as soon as you are getting into the market and trying to sell it, you are facing a huge issue that nobody wants to buy your product. Nobody wants to pay even 1 cent to the product that you are trying to sell. And that's one of the most typical problems that everybody faces. And the thing is that it's okay. It's still normal when you are facing that issue. The most important aspect here is that you need to do it as fast as possible. And that is the reason that there is fail fast, fail cheap, and fail often. So if you are having an idea, if you are doing a startup, if you are like joining a team, you need to understand that even a fail is a good thing because you never know when you're gonna fail, and as soon as you fail, better it is because you don't waste time, you don't waste money, you don't waste your networks, etc., etc. So this is just the very beginning why these kind of problems exist, and we as an entrepreneurial accelerator, as a startup accelerator, we aim to help you to fail fast, to fail cheap, and to fail often. But what is more important, we want to help you to succeed. like we want to help you based on our experience, and so there would be less fails on the way to the success. So just before going into the details of more technical like part of the presentation, I would just give you a small example about one of the biggest AgriTech companies in Armenia, in the world. It's a Blue River Technologies. So currently, they are one of the biggest companies in the industry, but how they started? Actually started a group of university students and professors from US, and they decided to come up with a machine that will help the owners of the golf field. So when the people are playing golf, to keep their grass in the best condition. So what they were doing, they were going to the fields and finding some weed, and with the help of their machines, they were trying to get rid of those weeds. And actually, they were thinking that they came up with the best idea, they came up with the best solution, and even they constructed the machine. But as soon as they went to the golf fields owners, they told that they don't care about this kind of machine, because in reality, they don't have the issue that the company, that the team was thinking they have. And what is more important, they told that they want to pay for the this kind of machinery at all. And what they decided to go deep into the AgriTech and understand what in reality the problems are. And they came up with the solution. And that was not anymore for the golf clubs or for the golf fields. It was started for the fields, for the real AgriTech fields. What they decided to do, they decided to solve the issue of the weed that exists on different fields, on different crop fields. And what they understood, that in reality, every year around $25 billion is spent on the pesticides to remedy the weeds on the fields. And it's around 3 billion pounds of herbicides that is basically used on annual basis. And those pesticides are dedicated to remedy around 250 species of weeds. And with their new machinery, what they were able to do, as you can see on the screen, they started based on the image recognition to understand what kind of typical weeds there are in the field, and not to use any kind of pesticide, but to use a typical right pesticide on typical weed type. And with the help of that, they were able to cut down the use of the pesticide to around 90%. And at the same time to cut down the amount of the pesticides that have been used, like the total amount of the pesticides worldwide. And based on that, they started to charge the companies to provide these kind of solutions to them. So you can see that the company that at the beginning was thinking to go into the other market, just again keeping the technology, the everything that they had, finding a new market, finding a new niche, which was the AgriTech. And now they are one of the leading companies in the industry. And as at the beginning I told, it started by just a bunch of students and a professor who were good in their tech, who were good in the technology, but have no business background at the time. But what they were able to do, they were able to tackle the real issue, the real problem that the people and everybody faces. So now we're going to talk about the lean startup. Does anybody know what is the lean startup? Please, if anybody knows, please raise a hand or speak. Feel free.
I know.
Yeah, fight.
No.
Yes,
yeah, okay. Aram, can you tell me what is the lean startup? What do you think about it?
So lean startup is the word lean startup comes from Eric Ries. He's the entrepreneur, but the whole concept is coming from Toyota, from lean manufacturing. You have already mentioned the main idea of the lean startup: fail fast, fail early, fail often. The concept of lean startup to have an MVP of the product, get to the market as soon as it's possible in order to learn everything you can about your customers and change your product to provide, in order to have a product market fit in a couple of words, I guess.
Okay, yeah, actually, Aramjan, you were like quite right. Maybe you missed like maybe a few stuff out of there, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
missed
but in
something.
general, you are right. So what we're gonna learn today, it's about the lean model. So we're gonna learn how we can evaluate our idea, how we can evaluate our product that we want to put into the market, and how it can be done just on a piece of paper. It's really important because in reality, in a lot of cases, you don't have 10 minutes, you don't have hours to pitch your idea into the like market, you don't have time to pitch your idea to the like different investors, to the partners, etc., etc. So it is the best way to have it on a piece of paper. And every time when you go somewhere, you can easily draw this product. You can easily draw the company that you are thinking to have. As Aram actually told, it's introduced by Steve Blank, which is one of, we can say, like the founders of the lean idea itself. And later on, a special business model was introduced by Alexander Osterwalder, who gave us idea how we can put on the paper, as it's mentioned on a canvas, our main ideas. So, and just before going into the canvas and into the details, there is one important thing that in reality, when we are talking about the lean startup or lean like principle of doing business, there are some myths that a lot of people are going to tell you that the lean is only for the high-tech companies, that in reality you can do it. In reality, it's not like that. Every company can implement the lean management system and the lean like principles. The other thing that the lean is about keeping everything cheap. In reality, it's not like that. The lean is not about the keeping the things cheap. It's about keeping everything fast and doing everything fast. And because you are doing the things fast, you are saving the money. That is the only case that it's related to the cheap stuff. But it's not necessarily means that you're gonna spend less money, like just because you are implementing lean. The other thing is that the lean startups is about the bootstrapping. I don't know if you know what is the bootstrapping. Does anybody know what is the bootstrapping, guys? Okay, so the bootstrapping is the case that a lot of startups, they don't want to get investment from the investors, from angels, or from different other professional institutions. They want to do everything on their own. So they are starting to sell the product, they are starting to sell their solution just from the day one. And based on the money that they are getting from those like negotiations, from this trading, they are putting that money back into their company and they're growing their company back. So in reality, the lean startup is not about the bootstrapping at all. So even though if you are looking to get investment from professional investors or from angel investors or from different VCs, etc., you can still implement the lean startup methodology. And the last thing that's about very important here, that the lean startup replace vision with the data or customer feedback. It's again not the reality. Although it helps you to get more ideas about the customers, although it's helped you to get like to do the customer discovery in the better way, still it's about the vision, because the lean is about like what kind of problem you're gonna solve, and at the end of the day, still your product needs to solve that particular problem. So now it is the lean startup canvas, like the thing that you're gonna use during the next few months, and it's gonna help you a lot to understand how good your idea, how good your product is, and are you really able to, based on this product, to do something great and, I don't know, to get the investment or to make your company better and bigger, etc. So these are the 9 points that you need to be concentrated while doing any startup, while growing any company. And the most important thing here is to remember that none of these points is fixed. So during your journey and during the development of your company, you can easily change each of these points based on the data, based on the conclusions, based on the insights that you are getting from your customers, from your partners, or just from the previous actions that you have done. Now we're gonna go one by one and understand how this works. So we are starting with the problem. The first point that you need to understand is the problem. The problem is what you're gonna solve. So what is the pain, who has the pain, where is the pain, and when does this pain happen? So this is very important to understand what kind of issue you're gonna tackle. And as bigger the pain, as bigger the problem is, as bigger the potential benefit of the company is. Because if the pain is too small, it means that it doesn't make sense to spend time, it doesn't make sense to spend your efforts and the money to solve this problem. Because by the end of the day, nobody gonna buy it, or there are only a few people that gonna buy this problem. And it doesn't make sense to waste your time on this issue. Another thing, always remember, if the problem is not yet solved, it doesn't mean that nobody has ever tried to solve this problem. It means that this problem again was not it was not making a sense to solve this problem. It means that the problem again was not that big, or it was not a problem as you think about it. So in your idea, in your imagination, there is the problem there, but in reality, for the potential customers or general public, it's not a problem that you think as it is. The other point, the second part, as you can see, we are going, this canvas is not the numbering is not one after the one. You can see that here is the problem and the customer segment is here, but when you are writing down the problem statement, later on you need to come down to the customer part. So when we are talking about the customer, it is the first thing to understand that while you are doing a startup, the most important thing and the most important supporter for you is going to be your customer, because he's the one that's going to give you a lot of ideas about the product. He's the one that's going to validate the ideas that you have, etc., etc. And when we are talking about the customer, it's important for you to understand who is the real customer, who is the person that's gonna buy, who is the person that's gonna use, and who is the person that's gonna implement the product that you are thinking. So why I separated these three parts, like buy, use, and implement, because those are three different types of customers that you're gonna have during like the process when you are selling your idea or when you are selling your product. So always remember that the customer is the real person who gives you the feedback. But at the same time, always remember that the customer is not the person who's gonna innovate. He's gonna be the person who's gonna validate your idea. So let's take a simple case when we are having a IT platform and we're gonna sell it to the company. So we have a B2B product. So B2B is the business-to-business product that we want to sell to the corporate. So in reality, we are thinking that our customer is gonna be the owner of the company, because he is the person who's gonna pay for that product. Okay, so let's imagine that it's an HR solution that we are wanting to sell to the company. So it means that the company owner gonna pay, but it's gonna be used by the HR team. So it means that the HR team itself is a customer for us, because if the HR team doesn't want to get that particular platform, it doesn't want to get that particular solution, it doesn't matter. The company owner wouldn't buy it, because it doesn't make a sense to buy anything that it's not going to be used by the other people. But at the same time, we need to remember, if it's an IT solution, if it's an IT product, it means that it's going to be implemented by the IT team of that company. So it means that at the same time, the IT team is another part of our customer, because he's going to be the person who would say that, you know, this product can be implemented anyhow in our company. This product can be somehow working with our other products, etc., etc. So you can see that when we are talking about the customer, it's always important to keep in mind that there is no single customer. It's a group of people whose idea, whose insights we need to understand before getting the real picture of the customer. Just a second, we are having the questions. I will just check what they are telling. Okay. So that's the case. When we are talking about the customer, try to imagine who are those three people, and based on that, try to create your like product, try to create your, I don't know, any kind of solution, regardless if it's a hardware, software, etc. And that is the case that in reality, in a lot of cases, you are not able to do it on your own, because if you are sitting in the room, you can more or less understand that this product can be used by the HR team, but in reality, you can understand if this product can be used or implemented by the IT team. So it's very important to talk to the customer just from very first day when you have started your journey. About this, actually, Hambartum, one of our speakers, will gonna talk later on about during the customer discovery session. So he's gonna give you some ideas what kind of questions it's essential to ask to the customers, what kind of interviews it's essential to do with the customers, what kind of feedbacks it's essential to get, and also how important is to write down all the comments that are provided by customers. So this is the customer.
Она вот сейчас именно она на терапии.
Just a second.
Guys, please mute all the
Can you please turn off the microphone?
Svetlana Babayan.
Yeah.
Что? Вот меня спрашивают.
Can you please turn off your microphone?
Interesting. Բարեցես։
Անջատեք էլի ձեր միկրոֆոնը։
Այո։
Okay, sorry guys. Yeah, the other part is the unique value proposition. So as far as we understood, like we have the problem, we have the customers, the group of like customers for whom we are creating the solution. But now we need to understand what in reality we are giving to those customers. And this is the unique value proposition that we have. So this is the thing that gonna like provide like better something to the customers. So this is the 4 main questions that you need to ask yourself while preparing the idea. This is what values does your product generate? What makes your product worth it? What makes it special? And how do you generate value? So this is the process that you need to understand. Is it cheaper? Is it faster? Is it gonna be like solving the issues that in reality you were thinking it has, and how it's gonna solve this issue? So this is the most important thing to remember, because if you have a problem, the unique value proposition needs to be something that solves this problem. And until you don't have it, it doesn't make a sense to go to the customer, or like it makes a sense to go to the customer to understand if you solve it, but the customer wouldn't pay you, because if you are not solving the problem that they have through the unique value proposition, they're never gonna pay for it. The other part of the canvas is about the solution. So the solution is already like the tangible thing, or the tangible, I don't know, creation of the value that you are proposing. The solution can be the product, software, applications, services, etc. So many other things. The thing that you're gonna show to your customer, the thing that you're gonna try to sell. The most important thing is to remember that no like final product ever exists. Even the Facebook, when we are talking about the giant company as it exists now, it is not a finished product. So it's gonna be developing day after day. As you can remember, maybe a few years back, the Facebook didn't have a lot of features that it has now. For instance, the meeting rooms that the Facebook now has. It just emerged because of the COVID-19, because they figure out that the Zoom is getting a lot of like attention from the public. The Zoom just increased its valuation 10 or 12 times during only the few months of this pandemic. Besides of it, the Skype again became popular, the WhatsApp became popular, etc., etc. So all this stuff became popular just because they were able to tackle the problem of the COVID-19. So the Facebook, what they have decided, they have already the product, but they decided to change it a bit, to put a few more features there, which was the room. Although it's another question if it works as well as Zoom does, but this is the thing that they have. Or the other case, the Facebook is considered as a social platform, but as you may heard, now they decided to get into the market like online e-commerce, to become an e-commerce platform as well. So they're gonna be competing with the Amazon. So the Amazon, which was for a while the biggest e-commerce platform in the world, so now they have another competitor, which is the Facebook, and they want to do the same there as well. So you can see that even the big corporates, when we are thinking that their product is almost ready, it's not like that. They are shifting it day after day. Another thing that you need to remember while writing down your business idea validation canvas is the unfair advantage. So the unfair advantage is the unique thing that your company has, and what is the like when somebody asks you why we should buy your product or why should we invest in your company, this is the most important thing that you need to consider, because the investors are going to be interested what is your advantage, why you are better than your competitors. So this is the unfair advantage. In some cases, like depending on the product, depending on the market and the level of your development, these like unfair advantages can be different. So one of them is the patents. So if you have any kind of product that is a hardware, or you are using any kind of, I don't know, IT solution that can be patented. So based on the patents, you can say that for the next 10 years, or the duration of the patent because is 10 years. So during the 10 years, you have the advantage because nobody else has it. Another thing is the expert team. So imagine that you have a team who is working on some AI solution, and imagine that the 5 of your team members are AI experts and they are best in the world. So typically you can say that we have an expert team that nobody else has, because we are the top 5 like AI guys in the world, or we are the top 5 AgriTech guys in the world, or we are among the top 100 like again AgriTech guys in the world. So based on that, we can be sure that our team has enough expertise. Or for instance, our product lead or the product owner, before he was working at Google or Facebook or in a top company, and he was doing the same job and he was among the top like employees there. Now he decided to join our team. So this is some unfair advantages that you can use while you are pitching in front of the investors or you are trying to attract attention. Another thing that can be interesting is the customer relations, because like you can have a special like connection with your customers that will prove that regardless what kind of competitors who gonna emerge, what they gonna do, still you are going to be the most connected to the customers. And based on that, you can be sure that like you will have advantage at the market, or you will have a advantage and the competitors wouldn't be able to like get part of your market or share from your market. And the last but not the least important thing is the critical mass. So whenever you have a company, whenever you have a startup, you can have a critical mass. So as soon as you have a big number of customers or big number, I don't know, subscribers, followers, etc., it creates for you a market opportunity. Again, coming back to the Facebook. So why they decided to get into the e-commerce market? Because they already figure out that they have a critical mass of people. So they have a people who are ready to pay for the advertisements. They have a people who are daily searching and getting billion types of videos, streaming, etc., etc. And it means that they have a people who can potentially also buy something. So if there will be only like, I don't know, 500 or 600 users of the Facebook, it wouldn't make a sense for them to start e-commerce platform at the moment. But as far as they have like already billions of them, it already makes a sense to start.
Excuse me, may I give a question, Mr. Hovhannes?
Yeah, yes.
Sorry for interrupting. Should we make this interactive or should we?
No, we should. Whenever, yeah, sorry for not telling it. Whenever you have any kind of question, please feel free to ask.
Okay, thanks. So, like studying at AOA, I know pretty well the business model Canvas, but now I have like a question that is very interesting for me, which is, you see, of course, you should solve a problem. For example, e-commerce problem helps people to get to order the products, to view the products and stuff. But also, e-commerce platforms are important because they themselves have already become brand, right? For example, when I say menu.am, I understand food. I should order food there. And now, after this, during this COVID crisis, and believe after that, some of the major platforms that I know for some like that they have positioned themselves as have completely changed. For example, now when I enter to Byte.am, yes, it's supposed to be food delivery company, but now
Yes.
I see all the things that I'm totally frustrated. And when I'm going on all pages and I don't understand which one I should buy, which one is my feed, where is the food that I want, you know? And I'm interested in whether business model Canvas offers some sort of transformation model where you transform your business step by step. So you also consider like how people value and see your product, so that you don't go for only like solving problems and you lose your customers, you know?
Okay. Actually, we're gonna thank you for the question. Actually, we're gonna go to this part a bit later, because the main critical part of the business model canvas is that you need to pivot it. So you never need to have a fixed business model that's gonna solve the issues for 10 years. Like, you can really shift it on daily basis. You can do it every day based on the feedback that you are getting from your customer. I can give you just a small example. You know the crisp?
Yes, of course I know.
Yeah, so actually their head of their marketing department, one day he was doing a like seminar for us, and actually how he told us how they did their shift. That at the very beginning they were thinking to have like a B2C platform when they were selling or giving like for the customers, just individual customers, their product, and it was going pretty well because they were able to attract people, etc., etc. They were downloading on their iPhones or their computers, etc. But later on they figured out that they were getting like attention from a group of people working on the same company. So they figure out that on their customer base, there are people who are working in the Microsoft, there are people who are working in Google, etc., etc. So there is already a people who are working on the same part. And just accidentally, or I don't know what they have done, it's maybe a corporate details. So they get a lot of emails that do they have any kind of solutions for the teams? So if they can provide the crisp solution for a particular team, so this team can use it in their room when they are doing any kind of like conversations or Zoom calls, etc., etc. So they decided that it might be a more interesting way for them to sell their product rather to sell it to the individual customers. So before it was a B2C, now it turned into a B2B2T kind of like the team inside the businesses. And they started to reach out to different teams in that like companies themselves. And now when they are talking about the growth hacking, they are not anymore counting how many new customers they had. They are counting how many new teams they have acquired. So typically they are still solving the same problem, which is the voice or noise cancellation, but they change the customer segment that they are using at the moment. So you never know, maybe in a few months, they will completely shift their customer segment and they will start selling it only to the whole company itself. They don't want to sell it anymore to the team. Or maybe they will go away completely from the B2B and they will go into the B2C and they will sell only to the individuals. So this is they get the feedback from the customer, they get the feedback from the market, and they made the amendment. But in a few slides, we will come back and we will talk about all the possible pivoting. This process is called pivoting. We're going to talk about it a bit later. So thank you for the question.
Thank you for the answer.
Yeah. The next part of the canvas is about the revenue streams. So when you are doing any kind of business, it's not just to do the business for doing the business. You need to earn something. Because when we are talking about the financial management, you most probably know that the most important thing in the financial management is to maximize the profit of the shareholder. This is the true about the startups as well. It's not about the maximizing the profit itself, but it's about earning money that you can reinvest into your company and make it bigger and bigger. So that's why it's important to understand from where you're going to get this money, from where you're going to get this revenue. So the revenue, when we're talking, it's related to the business model. So from where you can get the money. The first thing is the direct sales. So you are selling just the product and getting money out of it. The other one is advertising. So the Facebook, for instance, they are giving you an opportunity to advertise your event, to advertise your product, to advertise your company. You are paying money for the advertisement. This is another like way of getting the money. The other version is the freemium, like the Zoom. For instance, if we are using a free account of Zoom, we are paying only $40, 40 minutes, we can use it and we pay nothing. But if we want to have like endless time for the Zoom conversations, we're gonna pay extra $14 or $15. I don't remember the exact number. But on top of that, also there are another ways that you can pay way more. For instance, you can pay like $200 to have an opportunity to attract 500 people on your like conversations, etc., etc. The other one is the My Account. So for instance, you can have a personal account that you are using it, and based on that, you need to pay. The other one is the product placement. So for instance, this kind of issue, thing is usually done by the Google ads, etc., etc. They are deciding that your company should be have a higher like place, and for that you are paying, and many other like opportunities for the to get the money. So this is very important just from the very beginning to understand what kind of revenue stream you're gonna be using. What is the best business model that you're gonna use while doing the business? So, and when we are talking about the businesses, it's like a real case that it happens in a lot of countries. So they are just selecting one of these and going forward with this. I'll tell you just a case from India. One of our like portfolio companies from India, actually what they were doing, they were working on the filter to have a clear water at the houses, to have a clean water at the houses. But the filter itself was really expensive. So the Indian families were not able to afford to buy these filters and to put on their like water taps and use it. So what they have decided, they decided that they're gonna give that filters to those families free of charge, but on a monthly basis through IoT solution, they were going to get like what was the amount of the water that was filtered, and they were just charging for the amount of the filtered water because their filter was were having really good quality, and it was serving for many for a lot of time. And based on that, they were like sure that they can do this kind of sales. And actually, this team, one of the best teams currently in India, they are one of the fastest growing companies there. So you can see that even like in reality, when we are talking about like water filters, we are always thinking that it's gonna be a direct sale. So you're gonna sell, the people are gonna buy and use it for a while. But they came up with the other model, which was like the subscription model. They were subscribed to this water filter and they were using them in their houses. So this is the revenue stream part. The other part is the costs. So when you are doing a business, you also need to understand what are the costs related to that business. What are the particular like costs that you're gonna have while doing the business. It's about the operational cost, it's about the fixed cost. If you don't know the difference, I'm pretty sure during the next sessions, our speakers gonna cover that operational and fixed cost part, so it would be more easier for you. And what is most important with the cost is knowing the cost, you would know what is the break-even point for you. So how many of the products you need to sell, or how many subscribers you need to help, or how much advertisement there should be on your platform. So you're gonna get to zero, like your revenue and your cost will be equal. And starting from that point, any new customer for you will be an extra like revenue. Why the cost part is important? Because again, it is one of the most not interesting, but one of the most important things that the investors want to hear from you. They always want to understand what is your monthly costs, what is your burning rate. So how much money you are burning on monthly basis. So because if they are giving you, for instance, $100,000 and your burning rate is, I don't know, $50,000 per month, it means that their money is enough for only 2 months. But you are telling that, okay, with this money, we're gonna live 6 or 7 months. They can already understand that you are not completely okay with your like how it's all calculations. That means that you are not a good businessman, etc. And on top of that, also it helps you to understand, for instance, when we are talking about the costs, for instance, what is the cost of acquisition of new customer, how much you are spending on advertisement to acquire a new customer, etc., etc. So this cost structure is really important at the very beginning for you to understand what are your costs and how you can cut them down. And at the second, it's also important for the investors to understand how you are operating. And always remember that the costs are the place when you can save a lot of things. So when your costs are high, it means that you are operating not on the best way. And that is the case that a lot of startups, they don't want to get big investments at the very beginning of their life cycle. Because when they are getting a lot of money, for instance, they are just an idea stage or a seed stage company and they got just $5 million, it means that they're gonna use that $5 million in a pace that before they were not using. So there is an opportunity that they will increase the salaries of their employees not in a rational way. It means that they're going to increase, I don't know, salary of the founders, again, not in a rational way. They're going to use better chairs. They're going to use, I don't know, better office that they don't need before. And this cost part helps you to eliminate all the waste. So try to have a focus on the cost part as well. The other part, is the key metrics. So when we are talking about the company, it's very important to understand what is the progress, how it goes by the time. Does your revenue grows or does your revenue goes down? Does your customer base growing or does it go down? How all these parameters are changing through the time. Those are typically the, here is written all these metrics that typically can be used. Again, I'm not going to get in much into the details because we have a separate session which is about the KPIs, so key performance indicators. There you're gonna learning what are all these like indicators about, how you're gonna measure them, and what is more important, how you're gonna understand if these like indicators are good or bad for you. Like based on that, you're gonna understand how you're gonna shift your business model. And the last but not the least important is the channel. So when you have a product, when you know your customer, you really need to understand how you're gonna sell, through which channels you're gonna sell your product to the customers. Is it just a direct call? Are you gonna physically going and doing it? Are you going to do it online? Are you going to do it virtually? Are you going to do it in a mobile way, etc., etc.? So this is the most important thing to the most important thing here is to understand that each product and each customer will need a unique way to reach them out. So it will have a unique channel. For instance, if you are doing, I don't know, if you are having an iOS solution, or if you are doing any kind of product or software which is related to the iOS or the Apple community kind of, so it doesn't make a sense to make advertisement in the newspapers or in magazines that are not read by the iOS community. So if it's a, I don't know, just a technical magazine, there is a chance that they're not going to use it. But if there is a special magazine that is dedicated for iOS users, it will make a sense to like put your advertisement and everything there. Just this is a basic like just a scenario. Again, about this, we're going to talk more detail during our marketing, PR, and like customer acquisition part, how we're going to acquire our customers, etc. And it's going to be covered on our next sessions. However, as you may understand, just let me go back. As you can understand, we try to cover all this canvas, and your daily routine should be like reworking on this canvas. So if the first day you just write down your canvas, the next day you're gonna change it. The second day you're gonna change it again. The third day you're gonna change it again, and there is a chance that there is already like 1,000 days passed from your first launching day, and you are still changing your business model canvas. This process, when we are talking, is called the pivoting. So whenever you have the idea, whenever you have your canvas, you're gonna change it dramatically day after day, maybe not on a daily basis, but on some portion of days. And that's why when we are talking about the pivoting, it's important to have a pivot or persevere meetings on a daily, like a special frequency, where you can have it like when you are having it like 2 or 3 weeks, it's too fast, but when you are having it after like each 2 months, it's already too long period. So it's important to have a team who is permanently getting feedbacks from your customers, who is permanently getting some ideas from the customers, and based on that, they are deciding if everything is okay, do you need to pivot or do you need to persevere and keep the way that you are going. This is the exact case that we talked about the Chris. So they decided to make a shift because they had their business model that was already working, but they figure out that there is a better way for working. So this is about the key metrics. They understood that the sales goes better with the teams, the retention rate with the teams is higher, the acquisition of users is better with the teams, there are more active users when we are talking about the teams, etc., etc. So they decided that they need to make a change. So when we are talking about the change, these are the last 2 or 3 slides actually. There are 8 main times of pivoting. So the first time is the zoom in pivot. For instance, you have a product that has, I don't know, 300 features. And by the time you can understand that only 2 or 3 features of that, how it's called, of that product are mostly used by the customer. So it makes a sense to concentrate more on those 2 features rather than to concentrate on 300 features, because it doesn't make a sense to spend your time, money, to spend the development team or hardware development team and to put together all those 300 features if nobody gonna use the rest 298. So keep eye on those 2 ones. The other way is the zoom out pivot. So this is the vice versa thing. Yeah, there might be a case that you have like, I don't know, 10 or 12 different features, but you are more concentrating on one feature. But going back and having a broader picture of the whole product, it makes a sense for you to concentrate it that way. The other thing is the customer segment pivoting. So this is again the case with the Chris that we told from B2C that they went to the B2T kind of, so the team. Again, the idea is the same, the solution is the same, the problem that they are solving is the same, but they decided to change the customer base. So now they are working with other things. The other thing is the customer need pivot. So here you have the customer, you really understand what for whom you are going to solve the problem, but by the time when you are going and talking to the customer, you could understand that in reality those customers have completely other needs. So in that case, you are keeping the customers with whom you are good, have a good relations already. The base that you have is already good, but you are changing the need, you are pivoting the need of those customers. The other part is the platform pivot. So you are changing the platform on which you were working. So this is the other way of pivoting. This is the business archetype pivoting. So you are changing the type of the business, or you are changing the business model which what you were working. So you are not anymore a freemium. Now your everything is based on the subscription model, etc., etc. And engine of growth pivot. So here is another thing how you were trying to grow. Was it just the investment from the investors, or you need to do any kind of other actions to grow your customer base, to grow your sales, etc., etc. So again, when we are coming back to the case with the CRISP, again, they shifted their growth model. Before it was just a growth, organic growth, or just maybe just advertised growth, etc., of the B2C sales. But now they decided to change the way how they are getting the growth through changing the customer base. They also changed the growth. So those are the main concept when you are able to pivot your business model. And believe me, from the experience that I have with the working with the startups, I can say that most of the companies are doing these pivots really like on monthly basis. They are changing it really fast, regardless in which stage they are. It can be the case with the emerging companies, with the new ones that are just, I don't know, 2 days, they birthed like 2 days ago, or the big, huge companies as it can be, I don't know, the Kodak, for instance. When we are talking about the case of the Kodak, everybody know that before the digital cameras, the Kodaks were the best cameras in the world. But due to the fact that they didn't pivot it on the right time, they didn't want it to shift to the digital camera part, they just doesn't exist anymore because they were not able to make that right shift. Or it can be also the case with many other like companies, for instance, the Philips, etc., etc.